PC World fans, Adam here with Jeff from Craft Computing.
Hello.
And Jeff, I would consider you an expert in all things home lab. And so I have a question that I need to ask you. For over a decade, I have relied on Synology NASs. So I mostly do data storage on those, but you know, I've thought about getting into other things like a Plex server or something like that. What is your thought on off-the-shelf NAS solutions like Synology, but it can be others, versus rolling your own DIY solutions?
That's a great question. So obviously I'm a fan of rolling your own, and it comes from a lot of experience of actually deploying systems like this, either for individuals or for small and medium-sized businesses. I've worked with quite a few of those in the past. With a lot of off-the-shelf systems, the hardware that they sell you is the hardware that you get, and that's kind of a double-edged sword, where a lot of the modern systems that you buy off the shelf, the Synologies, QNAPs, etc., they're coming with some of the lower power parts. So your low wattage CPUs, the Intel N5195, the even the N100, or Ryzen embedded V1600s or something like that. If it's just a storage appliance that you're after, if you just want to store files somewhere that's not your desktop, they're more than capable of doing that. Okay. My problem with a lot of the off-the-shelf components is they're trying to sell them as complete packages for self-hosting, for you can do Plex or Nextcloud or any number of other VPNs, any number of common self-hosted services. Those CPUs tend to really bog down during those services and just don't have enough power to drive a full self-hosted environment.
So you kind of have a limited options. Like you can't just get one necessarily. Even if it's, are we talking about across all price ranges? Or
most of the systems that I see for under, let's say, $1,200 have what we would normally consider embedded processors. So something you'd normally find in a Chromebook, but just with a lot of SATA ports on it. And if you've ever used a Chromebook, they're not the most proficient of CPUs.
But once again, I've never had a problem mostly with just the storage side of it. But you're saying for expandability, roll your own. But
right.
So so
like I said, for a NAS system just to store files, those are more than fine. In fact, that's kind of what they're made to do. But when you want to get into more self-hosted services, you need to step up the power a little bit.
But does that come with a cost? Do you think rolling your own you actually net cheaper, or because you have the option to have higher powered parts that you're actually going to end up even either cost efficient or maybe even more, because you could spend more.
You could absolutely spend. You can always spend more.
Of course,
this is the PC landscape. So let's just go from like a straight performance perspective. Let's say you wanted to run a Plex server. One thing that, again, Plex server, you can host all your files on there, and if you're just streaming to a device that can read that file natively and play it back with no transcoding, it'll work just fine for that. If you need to do any kind of CPU transcoding, change resolutions on the fly, change lower bit rates because you want to stream to a mobile device, that takes more CPU horsepower. Some CPUs from Intel have built-in encoders with QuickSync, so you can stream out H.264 all day long. Most of the lower cost embedded solutions don't have QuickSync, so they have to rely on just CPU cycles. They're not going to keep up with that. From a cost perspective, if you're pricing something out in, let's say, the $800 to $1,200 price range, you can pretty much always come up with a lower or same cost solution as a Synology or a QNAP and get more power in the same size package and be able to run all those services, whether it be with used hardware or new hardware. I built a solution on my channel not long ago using an Intel Tiger Lake mobile CPU on a motherboard I got from AliExpress. Ended up with right around 80 terabytes of storage for about $1,000. So to give you the cost perspective, you can definitely do more with the same amount of money rolling your own solution.
And that it typically has more power, like you could do transcoding.
Correct. Yeah, the Tiger Lake CPU I used was an 11900H, so it's an 8-core, 16-threaded chip. It has QuickSync, so it'll do H.264, X.265 transcoding. You have so much more power to work with for running services other than file hosting.
Okay, but the big hang up for me is installing the OS, even knowing which OS to run, configuring it.
That's some of the hidden costs of rolling your own solution.
Because that takes time and also knowledge, which I'm not the smartest guy in the room when it comes to that. I mean, maybe I can just call you up and be like, "Hey, can you do this for me?" But not everyone's got a Jeff in their life.
Right.
So.
And that is the hidden cost of rolling your own solution, is you have to roll your own solution. It takes care and maintenance and feeding, just like a server would, just like your gaming PC would. You don't just install Windows and install your games and call it a day. We're tinkerers. We like to tinker with our systems and make them run efficiently and get all the performance we can out of them. Once you get into hosting your own services, it's going to be a lot of the same thing. How many streams can I get out of my Plex server so I can share all these videos with my family members? How can I set up my own VPN system or ad blocking network-wide system? And you have to know how to run all those systems and get them installed and actually make them work for you.
Yeah, and that's the point where it's a little bit more of a headache for me, because I feel like one other option that you've kind of alluded to is, hey, you build a new system for maybe your main gaming or editing rig, and then you've got this other system, that's still good, but it's a little dated.
Yeah.
But that could, maybe work as some sort of system but it's really that time and effort to sit down. Like, what are the best ways to learn that? Is it your channel? Are there other channels out there that you're like, oh, if you want to install a system like this?
My channel, I have a whole bunch of different tutorials for a lot of common, self-hosted or home lab style systems. I have whole network ad blocking, so how you would normally install, uBlock Origin as a browser extension. How do you do that for your phone or every computer on your network?
It's like similar to a Pi-hole?
Similar to a
okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Running a Pi-hole, but having it be a network-wide ad blocking system. So every device, including like your Roku TVs and Amazon Fire Sticks and things like that, will also be ad blocked on their way out of your network. But I also have tutorials for setting up your Plex server, setting up a VPN gateway so you can download all of your Linux ISOs without your ISP knowing about them. all your torrenting traffic, which I'm sure is just Linux ISOs.
I'm sure.
But no, there's a whole number of home lab resources out in the community. There's Techno Tim, there's Jeff Geerling, a lot of different YouTube channels, by the way, shout out to all of you, do some really great content around, why do you want to build a server and what can you do with it?
Oh, and just roughly, I'm sure there's no one size answer, for what we're talking about here, but roughly, what do you think the time investment is, regardless of the hardware? Say you have the hardware, whether new or maybe using an older system, but the actual configuring of it.
Actual configuring, I can get you started on a couple of my videos. So let's take the three big ones: the VPN gateway, Plex server, and Pi-hole. Have that run all on its own hardware. You can probably be into it for an afternoon. So probably about 3 to 4 hours, you can get everything up and running.
That's a fun little project, yeah. And then, but what about maintenance? How often are you having to actually perform maintenance on it?
Not very often, and that's kind of a goal of my home lab. So when we talk about self-hosted services, there's a couple of different methods or reasons behind that. Number one, do you want to just learn how network and server systems work and be able to tinker with them and then break them and then learn how to fix them? Or are you running services that you're going to be dependent on day to day? If you're running services that you want to depend on, you want to keep those services up and running. So you want to tinker with them, honestly, as little as possible. As long as they're running, keep them running.
Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, something like the network, you don't want your network to go down.
Right,
so.
Right.
But if it's, maybe just, streaming your movies or something like that, if that breaks, okay.
I don't know, the SLA on my Plex server is pretty extreme.
Interesting.
Yeah, if I take my Plex server down, I hear about it within about 15 minutes from one of my kids. So.
Okay. So, you have me curious. I guess we can check out your channel for a lot of that kind of stuff and recommendations, hardware, software-wise, all that kind of fun stuff. It gets me excited to potentially think about doing that. I'm still okay with the NAS that I have right now, but when that thing finally dies, maybe I'll dip my toe into the water. So
there you go.
Okay.
Like all things in the PC world, whether it's water cooling or custom case mods or something like that, it's as deep as you want it to go. It's a really fun rabbit hole to get into, though.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for answering my questions, and hopefully maybe that answered some of your questions in the audience. If it did, or if you have a specific question for Jeff, please put it down in the comments. And for more fun talks, videos like this, please subscribe here on PC World, and go over to Craft Computing and subscribe over there as well. So thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you later.